Alright, so what we are looking at here today is going to be the ViFly Whoopstor 3 1S charger. And this charger has been the go-to and the king of 1S charging for most of the FPV pilots because there is just not a lot of options out there, and this is the only one that is actually good. Until now, we are seeing GEPRC releasing the Whoop Charger W63, which is going to be also very good. And the new question now arises, which of the chargers should you be going for? Let's actually just compare them side by side so you can decide your options. Alright, let's jump right into it. Alright, starting with the size, both chargers are going to be relatively compact and can fit into any pocket. So basically, yeah, very travel friendly. However, if you're just after the smallest option possible, the Whoopstor version 3 is still going to be winning the size battle, as you can see from the footage right here. That, yeah, the Whoopstor 3 is still noticeably smaller. On the other hand, the W63 adds an extra 12 meter of length, but the extra size isn't just for nothing, as you are getting a larger cooling fan and a bigger display screen. And speaking of the display, the Whoopstor has a smaller OLED screen, which the W63 boasted a larger IPS screen. The IPS screen on the W63 is going to be appearing more colorful and vibrant because, yeah, it's IPS, right? And OLED, you're probably going to get a little bit more contrast. But when you're at this, looking at this kind of products, yeah, as long as you can see, I don't care how it looks. Next, let's talk about the weight. So Whoopstor 3 is obviously going to be lighter because it's relatively smaller. So you can see that it's going to be landing at 142 grams. And for the W63 of GEPRC, let's just weight it, you're going to get about 166. So yeah, obviously bigger is going to be heavier. Next, when it comes to the port quantity and the battery types of what they support, both chargers are going to be the same. And both are going to support the standard 830 plug, BT 2.0, and the PH 2.0 plugs. You are free to mix and match charging all three types of plugs, but just make sure do not plug two batteries in the ports, as it's just going to fry the charger. Basically, same for both. Alright, so next, let's actually look at the input methods as of how you should be powering up both of the charger. So for the Whoopstor version 3, you will have an XT60 direct input and a USB-C, probably USB-C, always the most common. And on the other hand, the W63 only is going to have two input options. You can either use the XT60 right here or slide it here and use the USB-C. But most of the time, I think we're just going to be using USB-C unless you are going to be using like this as a field charger, like using a bigger LiPo to charge up your small LiPo. That's also an option. But the more important thing here is to understand the minimum input power required for each charger when you're using the USB-C, because most of us, I think we're just going to be using that option to power it on. So the Whoopstor 3 is going to be requiring a minimum 40 watts of input power to be able to function, and the W63 is going to be the more power hungry one. It's recommended to use a minimum 100 input power to reach the maximum output. Based on my test, the W63 is still going to work if you use a lower wattage charging block, but you're just not going to be able to charge up at the max output. Although the W63 requires a little bit more power to power it on, but the benefit is that you will be able to charge each battery port at max 3 amps per port, versus the Whoopstor 3 will only allow you to reach a maximum 1.3 amps per port. So obviously, if fast charging is something that you're trying to achieve, the W63 is going to be the better option right here. Now, let's actually just power both of these chargers up so we can discuss how the charging works and how the control works. So to charge LiPo on both of these devices, the SOP is going to be the same. You're going to plug in a battery and the charger is going to charge up a battery. It stops automatically once that particular port is charged up, and then you can just unplug the battery, and basically that's it. Okay, so we're not going to go into details here as of the charging functions, as I do think that there is not a lot of difference. But let's actually just look at the controls one by one. So let's actually look at the Whoopstor first. So you basically are going to get two buttons right here. So very ultra simple. There's not anything that you should be required to learn on this. So for the left button, if you short press it, it's going to allow you to set up the current on the charger. So like how much input you want it to go. And if you long press this left button is basically going to start the charger, but obviously we don't have any batteries right now. Now let's look at the right button. So at the right button, it will allow you to set up the max voltage per cell that you wanted to charge. So we have the options of 3.8, we have the options of 3.85, and we have the options of 4.2, and we have the options of 4.35. And yeah, basically that's it. And if you wanted to long press this one, it's just going to like enable and disabling the beep sound of the charger. So yeah, probably just leave it on so you know when your charging is complete. Now let's swap to the GEPRC W63. So this one, you basically still get 2 buttons, but now you're getting a lot more functions, as each of the ports are now adjustable individually. So you can customize each port to a different value. So let's just try. So you can see that you can use the scroller button to select the individual port that you want, and you can use the scroller button to enter it. You can see that basically this is going to be something that we're pretty familiar on our bigger chargers. That you can see that you get to set up the battery types. You can have options like, okay, so probably we're still going to keep it at high volt, because most of the 1S LiPos that we fly are just going to be high volt LiPos. And you get to set up the end voltage, and you get to even set up the mode, so you can discharge, storage, charge. Yeah, so it's just ultra convenient. And you can set up the charging current to max about whatever amps. I think you can set up at max 3 amps if you want. And yeah, that's just very convenient. And this is just for first port. Now I'll actually set up the second port. So you will be able to set up the second port if you wanted to charge it up as regular LiPo. You will be able to do that. And you will be able to set it up even as storage charge. If you want, you can set up the charge current as well. Yeah. So basically, each of these 6 ports are just customizable. Like you can just do 6 of the stuff individually without any problem. But if you just think that this is just going to be too much for you, all you can do is just select all, and then probably set up once. So Lehive. Okay, let's actually go to charge, and then charge current, max 3 amps, and you can just hit apply. And basically, that's it. But if you wanted to customize each of these ports, yes, it is possible. So that is a very big plus for this charger and the unique portion of it, because this one, the ViFly Whoopstor 3, it's basically one setting for all, so you don't get to choose. Additionally, for the W63, there is one important thing to note, is that it doesn't seem to have a start and pause function for charging. So you're just going to plug in the battery like this, and you can see that immediately it's just going to be start charging itself. You can see red dots showing up, and there's no way to stop it. You cannot pause it. You just have to wait until the charging complete, or you just have to pull the battery off. And I do wish that this is something that they can probably update in the future software updates, as I like to be able to control when to start and pause my charging, because yeah, I think that's more safe in a sense. But overall, this is not going to be a big deal, because yeah, you can still unplug your battery to stop it. All right, so next, let's actually just talk about the most important thing. How much do they cost? So for the Whoopstor, it's basically going to cost around $33, pretty steady at most of the places. And for the W63, it's going to be about $36. So obviously, if you don't have a 1S charger, then getting the W63 is probably going to be a better investment, since with the extra $3, you're just getting so much more. You get to charge your battery faster at 3 amps, and you get a bigger screen and adjustable individual ports if you case customization is something that you love. But if you already own a Whoopstor version 3, then probably it is not going to be worth it to upgrade, because the Whoopstor version 3 is still going to be very good and is going to satisfy most of your use case for 1S charging. Alright, so these are going to be my take for both of these chargers, and I hope this helps clarify some of the questions that you might have. So why not just let me know which one do you like better at the comment section. I would love to hear from your thoughts, and yeah, probably you can also help other people to decide. Alright, so if you like what I'm doing, please support me by a like and a subscribe. Alright, see you in the next one. Happy flying.